Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 26 of Cardboard Time. This is Arwen. It's going to be a little bit of a short episode today because we are still kind of catching up from Origins. There's lots more interview content to come, so we'll be having a little bit longer episodes in the next few episodes to come. And our next episode is our 1-year anniversary already, and we have an absolutely wonderful show lined up for you for that. You won't want to miss it. Episode number 27 on our 1-year anniversary. And we are talking about hosting a game day sometime soon for our friends in the Cleveland area. If you're in the area and haven't heard about this already and would like to take part, please let me know as I'm starting to get some details together. Well, today's beer of the day is the Hoppin' Frog 15th anniversary ale, and I probably should have saved this for next time for our anniversary show, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to talk about this beer. I went to Hoppin' Frog with my former boss's boss, who is also a beer fanatic, and we did some sampling. And at Hoppin' Frog, you always have to be careful with sampling because just about everything there is super, super strong. This beer was amazing. It had very distinct fruit tastes, sweet spice notes, and really kind of tasted somewhere just shy of a quad. Very, very complex. And also had some really heavy bourbon notes to it as well. So a lot of sitting there, tasting it, enjoying it. This one took me a while to finish, and the 15th anniversary absolutely earned every single bit of its 4.5 rating. Like a great game, I'm still thinking about this beer. And it's time to check the Shelf of Shame, and there's been no new additions. My Shelf of Shame is down to 154. That is down 3, and the 3 that I played were On the Rocks, Furnace, and Kohaku, which are all games that I am going to discuss today. So why don't we get into the review content and start talking about what we've been playing? The first game that I wanted to talk about is On the Rocks from 2021. And this game plays from 1 to 4 players in 45 to 90 minutes, designed by Michael and Christina Petrie. And the artist is also Christina Petrie, published by 25th Century Games. In On the Rocks, players are mixologists preparing cocktails for patrons in order to make money or victory points. Players will first select either 3 or 4 cocktail recipes to prepare in 3 rounds. Each recipe has a specific color combination of marbles that need to be placed on the player's board in order to complete a drink order. In turn order, players will roll dice and then pull a corresponding number of marbles out of the bag. Those marbles are then placed clockwise in a circle of cups at a player's discretion. Once a player completes a drink, they flip over the recipe and gain a tip card, which gives them a special one-time use ability or can be used for points at the end of the game. If the player completes all their drinks, they get a lemon wedge and a new set of 3 to 4 recipes. The player to complete 3 sets of recipes first triggers the end of the game, and the player with the most points and money at the end of the game wins. So this game is very much reminiscent of a combination of Azul's tile drafting mechanics and Potion Explosion's marble placement to kind of fill a pattern and then gain a special ability from it. The component production quality is absolutely outstanding. It was gorgeous, especially the recessed player boards and the silicone bowls. So you're getting all these marbles, you're taking them out of these bowls that you've picked, and there is a nice little spot for them in your player board. And all the different drink placement locations have little recessed circles, so the marbles fit nice and snug there. Absolutely wonderful design from a component production standpoint. I did get this out to the table with Allie. It was very easy to teach her the mechanics. Part of that was probably because she had played Azul and Potion Explosion before, so it was very easy to reference those games. I don't think it would have been that much of a extra add-on on top of that if she hadn't, as long as you had somebody that was kind of familiar with the drafting mechanics and then the marble placement mechanics from Potion Explosion. So there's some negatives to this game, some issues I did have. There are potential color blindness issues. Although I had less of an issue with the red and green marbles, I thought that was going to be really what held me up on this game. And it was more of an issue with the green and black marbles. The green were kind of a lighter green. The black were kind of a grayish leaning into black, but there was definitely a darkness contrast between the two, but it was close enough that I kind of confused the two at times. My recommendation for this would have been that they would have made the black marbles solid, like the gold marbles that you can get, to just alleviate that. I think that would have been a fairly easy fix, but the black marbles function as kind of a contrast to the gold marbles, so I don't think it would have been even thematically that much of a difference. I did also notice that the game seemed to slightly overstay its welcome. We found ourselves purposely selecting 3 cards in the third round instead of 4 to shorten the game. So instead of going for more points, we just basically wanted to get the game done and over with. I really did like the marble drafting concept. It can lead to a large amount of analysis paralysis, especially if you're the one that's placing those marbles in the bowls. So basically, you have to go around clockwise and place one marble in each bowl around in a circle. So you're kind of planning what's going in what bowl. So not only are you trying to plan your own moves, but you're also trying to plan on what your opponent needs so that you don't purposely give them a really nice bowl that they can choose from. The timing of exactly when to use the tip cards was also kind of unclear in the manual. We did mostly save them for points. It was in the reference materials, it did say that was like step 1, that you had to use the cards. And I kind of thought that some of them you could use at any time, but I wasn't quite sure about that. So we probably could have clarified that on something like BGG, but at that point of the game, when we were really concerned about using them, we just kind of stuck to that first phase of the turn. So my final judgment for this game, I really did like this game well enough for what it was. I thought it was a fine game, and it was pretty solid. The mechanics were fun. Production value was great. Other than that color blindness issue, I thought that there were some great things to really say about this game. That said, I'm not sure that this really needs to stick around when I have both Azul and Potion Explosion that fill very similar spaces. They both leave very few spaces that this fills. I'll probably need about 1 to 2 more games to kind of determine, yes, this does need to go, but I'm kind of leaning towards this one leaving the shelf. I think this is a fine game. It would be a fine addition to anybody's collection, especially if they don't have those games and are looking for something that kind of fills that void. But this one just didn't quite seem to hit for me as well as those other 2 games did. So those are my thoughts on the Rocks. And the next game that I want to talk about is Kohaku from 2020 that plays from 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes, designed by Danny Devine, and the artist is also Danny Devine, published by Gold Seal and 25th Century Games. In Kohaku, players draft both a koi and a feature tile on their turn from a central board to place in their personal koi pond. Each feature tile provides a scoring condition, and each koi tile provides opportunities to match up on the scoring conditions. Scoring conditions range from matching up colors of adjacent koi to scoring adjacent dragonflies. Koi pond placement has to occur in a checkerboard pattern between koi and features such that no koi or feature is adjacent to a tile of its own type. Players continue to place tiles until the koi tiles are depleted, and then players score their pond. The player with the most points wins. So I kind of came in a little bit late to the Kohaku party, and I missed out on the initial deluxe offering, which actually used clear acrylic tiles in place of the traditional cardboard tiles. And I'm very sad that I did, because it made for a beautiful game that looked like the fish were basically swimming in the acrylic tiles. It was amazing, amazing production. But I am happy to say I talked to the representative at the 25th Century booth at Origins, and he basically reassured me, no, the standard production is still really, really super pretty. And while it's not as over-the-top pretty, it's still really gorgeous. And it really makes for a nice experience and a nice player board when you get done with the game to kind of look at and look over and reflect on. I was really happy with that. There's a little bit of UV spotting as well to kind of highlight some of those features like water ripples and that. Very nice touches. Really commend them for the production quality on the game. This is really a great, simple tile drafting and placement game. Really solid decision points in point optimization, but it's still very teachable. Really quick to get out to the table, really easy to teach to beginning players, and it hits that nice sweet spot between being accessible and challenging. The other thing that this does really well is has a very inviting, peaceful theme, and again, a beautiful player board at the end of the game. So people are going to look at this game, want to know what you're playing as we get back to conventions, as we get back to some of those more in-person events, if we're having those. These are the kinds of games that are really going to attract people over and possibly attract people outside of the hobby to come over and look and ask what you're doing. And this is something that you can then go and say, hey, would you like to come in and try a round? We'll teach you. The scoring is really easy on this. You're basically going through each of your feature tiles, scoring them individually, flipping them over, going on to the next one. Super simple. And the last thing that I wanted to say is that I played this solo, and it's a very, very easy upkeep. It does provide a very nice challenge. I was able to beat medium. I came very close to hard after a couple of playthroughs, but I still haven't quite beat the hard score. So each of the scores that you have to beat between easy, medium, and hard are set as you play, and haven't quite been able to beat that hard score yet. But this kind of keeps me coming back and thinking, what exactly could I do to maybe get to that hard score? So for my final judgment, I need to explore this game some more with more players, but I'm absolutely glad I picked this up, even if it's just for the solo mode. But I am looking forward to sharing this with others as I get out to more places and do some more in-person gaming. I think this is going to be one that attracts some people over and maybe causes some conversations to happen. So I would definitely recommend checking out Kohaku. And the final game that I wanted to talk about today is Furnace, and this is one that if you've been following the board game scene, you've probably heard of by now. This was a 2021 release, and it plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 60 minutes, designed by Ivan Lashin. And the artists are numerous. I will try to pronounce their names as best I can. Sergei Dulin, Marta Ivanova, Ilya Konovalov, Oleg Yurkov, Vadim Poluboyarov, and Igor Zarkov. Published by Hobby World and Arcane Wonders. Furnace is an engine-building Eurogame in which players take on the roles of 19th century capitalists building their industrial corporations. Players do this through a series of 4 rounds, each consisting of 2 phases. During the auction phase, players are going to bid using discs numbered 1 through 4 on cards that will help them build an engine. If they are outbid, they receive compensation in the form of resources or a processing ability, which is then multiplied by their disc value. If they win the card, they get to place the card in their tableau. The production phase sees players running their engine and trying to convert their resources into as many victory points as possible. The player with the most victory points at the end of 4 rounds is the winner. So this was probably the game of Origins I was most on the fence about picking up. I really wanted to play it first, but tables weren't necessarily available. And going into the convention, I had asked, what's the deal with this Furnace game? Is it any good? Who's played it? And the consensus I got from a couple of people was basically, this plays like Century Spice Road with an auction mechanic. So I thought, well, maybe I can pass on this one. I knew I was going to be picking up Too Many Bones. I knew I was going to be picking up Kohaku. I didn't know about this one. So it was really hard to walk by when the display table for the game was so well done. There was a little train that was going around with the little component pieces, and all the games were kind of built up on calyx shells below that and up and around it. A little cityscape that was built up as well. It was really, really cool. It was a really well done, very central location for Arcane Wonders. And I'm sure that was on purpose, because this one was hard to walk by without at least taking a look and thinking, boy, I should really pick this up. It really got my itch going to at least try this. The problem was that there was only one table that was demoing the game for the entire convention. So they had a couple of different games that were going on, and there was only one table that was doing this. So I decided to pick this game up anyways, based on feedback that I got while I was at the Rock Manor booth. And I can't exactly remember if it was Michael Nade that told me or if it was Samuel Bailey, but one of them told me that their game of the convention was Furnace, and that I really, really needed to go and pick up a copy. So that was basically all that I needed to hear from them, and I was heading over to the Arcane Wonders booth within a few minutes and picking up a copy for myself. So it's really hard not to pick it up after that. You talk to people around the convention and they're saying, yep, it's good. You're going to like it. I did play this one with Phil on Tabletop Simulator, and the easiest way that I can really describe this is very distilled engine building. So this is one of those engine builders that just gets to the core, doesn't add a lot of extra stuff on top. It is just get yourself some cards and get your engine running. There's 3 resources that you're converting into other resources or just straight up points. Technically, that's 4 if you count the upgrade tokens. Makes things very simple. You can upgrade the cards that you get during the game that will make them more powerful, make them produce more, give you more resources to work with. It's really, really straightforward. Normally, I'm mixed on auction games. I'm kind of half and half. Some auction games I really like. I love Medici for whatever reason, but there's other auction games that I'm like, I could take or leave them. And the auction mechanism in this, and I think it's the compensation that does it based on the strength of your disc, really interested me. So if you lose, you're going to get compensation for losing. And if you lose with a really strong disc, you're going to get a lot of compensation for what you're losing out on. So that's, I believe, what made it so interesting, because sometimes you bid on stuff that you didn't really want. You did not want that card, but you wanted the compensation that was going to come from that card. So that made things really, really interesting. I like that. The optional asymmetric player powers did also provide a cool spin on the game as well. They gave you a very potent ability in one of the phases, whether it was getting an extra disc during the bidding phase or getting some extra production abilities. That was really cool too. So it's a nice optional way. I would recommend playing through first just straight without the player powers, and then get into that after you've played around. The engine can get ridiculously large at the end of the game, and that can cause some potential AP issues on what order you're going to run your engine in. Now, there is a variant that can mitigate some of this, where you have to place your cards before or after your production chain, and then basically run everything in order. So that makes that a little bit better. You don't have as many decision points that you're worried about. That can help alleviate some of that AP. Otherwise, this game is very quick and snappy. Some people have talked about the slight runaway leader potential, but I think that the games are pretty much quick enough that you're not going to care. They're going to be over before you know it. The component quality was very good, but I did have one gripe, and that came from the cards, and that seems to be a fairly common concern amongst many people. They were a bit thin. For me, they did have a very nice linen finish, but they were very hard to shuffle. I was kind of worried about bending them. I just wish that they were a little bit thicker, but everything else, very good, solid wooden components. And there's a few cardboard chits as far as your currency and your upgrade tokens, but those were all very well done. I do recommend for the points or the money playing with iron clays if you have them. I invested in a set of them probably about a year ago, and it was one of the best investments I ever made. I love playing with those things, and this game benefits from that a lot because thematically it fits in, and the heft of getting those iron clays added to your victory point stack is really cool. And then finally, there's absolutely no color blindness issues to report from my end. The resources were very easy to identify both on the cards and in your stacks, so you knew exactly which resources were which, and the player colors were basically red, yellow, black, and white, which were very, very easy to distinguish between and did not cause any color blindness issues. So kudos to Arcane Wonders and Hobby World for putting together a really, really nice package with this. So as far as my final judgment on this one goes, I did not need another engine builder. I think just about everybody who listens on a regular basis knows I didn't need another engine building game. I really do have enough, but somehow this game seemed to slip in and have a place in my collection. I think the mix of the auction mechanic with the compensation mechanism and the production engine really just kind of hit that spot for me, that it felt different enough that this earned a place. If you can get newer players to the table and you want to teach them some quick and light engine building and auction mechanisms at the same time, I don't think that this is a bad option. The only thing that I would see turning a new player off to this game is the theme. And it does look a little bit dry. It's that industrial age kind of theme that may not hit with some people's. Looking at the box, I was thinking this was going to be way more complex than it was. And it really is a nice, lighter engine builder, but still very well done. Lots of fun decision points to think about how to build that engine up as efficiently as possible in 4 rounds. Amazing game. Really, really loved Furnace. And I think that's all the time that we're going to have for today. Again, we do have a lot of things planned for you coming up. A lot of my work basically has been organizing my calendar and talking to people through emails that we made contacts with at Origins, so that we're able to provide you with some amazing stories that are going to be coming your way. I can't wait to share them with you. So with that said, if you want some more information on Cardboard Time, you can always go to our website at cardboardtime.com or our Facebook. Our Instagram and Twitter is at cardboard_time. We have our Board Game Geek podcast page. Any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics, please email cardboardtime@gmail.com. And as always, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in another 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time. Happy gaming!